Hello, welcome to Microsoft Project 2007 Fast Track. In this tutorial, we will be looking at Microsoft Project 2007, finding out the quickest way to get into the software and how to start tracking your projects using Microsoft Project 2007. The first time a user gets into Microsoft Project, it can be rather baffling. I remember thinking about how similar Microsoft Project looked to Microsoft Excel, but I immediately discovered that lots of my Excel skills were not applicable in Microsoft Project. That said, there is lots of functionality in Microsoft Project that is very much the same in Microsoft Excel. So why do we need to use Microsoft Project? I mean, Microsoft Excel can do everything for you. It can list out your tasks. You can roll up your tasks into parent tasks. You can even type in start and finish dates into a column, and you can pretty much track your project that way. But there is certain functionality in Microsoft Project 2007 that Microsoft Excel does not have. That's what we're going to be looking at. Let's go right into Microsoft Excel and ask ourselves the question, what can't we do here that we can do in Microsoft Project? Right here, we can see a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. In this spreadsheet, we've got the activities of a particular project listed out. We also have the duration as well as the start and finish dates. For those of you who are a little bit familiar with Microsoft Project, you can see that I've taken some of the fields that you would find in Microsoft Project and put them in Microsoft Excel. You can see that Microsoft Excel allows you roll up several tasks into a parent task. It allows you to see the whole task list in detail. It allows you to track the duration, start and finish dates as well. So keep this in mind. This is our commercial construction schedule, and we will be looking at this in Microsoft Project shortly. But just keep this in mind and look at the difference between Microsoft Excel and Microsoft Project. Now, this is our Microsoft Project schedule. It's got exactly the same tasks and durations as well as start and finish dates as our Excel spreadsheet. But you can also see that the Gantt chart, which is this chart, the graphical view on the right-hand side, is missing in Excel. That is probably one of the most valuable aspects of Microsoft Project. It allows you to see the top level task, and it allows you to see the duration just at a snapshot without looking at the dates. I can tell that my detail, fabricate, and deliver steel task is longer than my submit shop drawings task. So that shows me at a snapshot different aspects of my schedule that senior management might just want to have a general overview of. You can also make your Gantt chart area much larger than it typically is, and you can also print this schedule. That said, we will be looking at how to get from our Microsoft Excel task list into this Microsoft Project schedule. How do we go from here, which is a basic list of our schedule activities and our start and finish dates, over to here? What's the big secret? That's what we're going to be finding out. I know there are lots of project managers out there who already know what schedules are. They know how to use Microsoft Excel. They know the basic functionality in any Microsoft program, but they might be having a little bit of difficulty coming to grips with Microsoft Project 2007. Now that we've talked about the differences between Microsoft Project and Excel, let's talk about the different levels of Microsoft Project users. I have categorized the users of Microsoft Project into 4 categories. We've got the unorthodox user, who is a user that doesn't really obey any of the Microsoft Project 101 in quote basics or best practices. The unorthodox user has very little or no knowledge of Microsoft Project in the first instance and is thrown into the reins of a new position or job requirement and told to produce Gantt charts or schedules without obeying any of the Microsoft project best practices. So that really is the unorthodox user. They really do not have a strong grasp of the basics and best practices in Microsoft Project. And then we have another type of user who's a basic user. They're told to produce a schedule using the basic capabilities of Microsoft Project. They might obey some of the laws without taking into consideration resource details and cost information and all the details such as calendars and units and task types. But, the basic or elementary user has his own way of getting around the software. Then we talk about the intermediate user, which is a user who has just enough experience to go around the software. He knows a few advanced uses of Microsoft Project and can be a little bit dangerous in that he's armed and equipped to some extent. An advanced user is one that has the experience and the knowledge to stretch the boundaries of Microsoft Project, one who knows almost all the functions of the software. So you can see there are different levels of using Microsoft Project. And my question is, which of these levels do you wish to be in? I mean, not everyone has to be an advanced user of Microsoft Project. Maybe being an intermediate user enables you to get to where you're going. Or maybe you are a CEO or CIO and all you need is the basics. All you want to know is how to manipulate the data that's in there to a little extent. You don't want to go too far. If you already have an idea of Microsoft Office software, then it will be rather easy for you to get to an intermediate stage. The next thing we're going to talk about is scheduling, because scheduling is really what Microsoft Project is all about. Scheduling is the process of determining when project activities will take place, depending on defined durations and precedent activities. Schedule constraints specify when an activity should start or end based on duration. Also, it's based on predecessors, which could be external predecessors or internal, and it also deals with relationships between those predecessors and resource availability. Let's talk about some Microsoft project terminology that might be a little bit helpful as we progress in this tutorial. The first one is resource loading. Resource loading is simply loading resources into a project schedule. This entails creating the resources by entering the resource names into the resource sheet. This entails creating a list of resources, and I'm really talking about resource names. They could be people, they could be equipment, they could be really any type of resource that you use on the project. So resource loading is about getting these resources into the resource sheet view in Microsoft Project, and also entering the types of resources and their rates, how much they cost, and so on. We looked at the Gantt chart previously. It is a graphical view on the right-hand side of the Microsoft Project screen. The next is the work breakdown structure. The work breakdown structure is a hierarchical structure showing the tasks that need to be accomplished to successfully complete a project and produce its required deliverables. It is a graphical view of the tasks that need to be accomplished, and it shows this in a hierarchical structure. Take a look. This is exactly what a work breakdown structure of our Microsoft project schedule we were looking at would look like. In this work breakdown structure, we can see that our three-story office has been broken down into different work packages. A baseline could refer to a schedule baseline, which is the timeline that the work was initially planned to be done. So the baseline is really the initial plan. The next thing you need to know a little bit about when using Microsoft Project is project management. Project management is the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to projects or to project activities to come out with the end goal or the end deliverable. Using Microsoft Project is really to facilitate your project management. So if you aren't a good project manager, using Microsoft Project isn't going to make you a good project manager. Good project managers should be able to use Microsoft Project to enhance what they're working on. Project management can be divided into 5 different process groups, and these groups are initiating, planning, executing, monitoring and controlling, and closing. All these process groups indicate different times or different phases in the whole project. In initiating, we're thinking about the project, trying to make sure that the project is indeed a project, trying to validate the reasons for the projects coming into existence. In planning, we're beyond the initiating stage and we're thinking about what we need to do to get the work done. We're thinking about all the plans, trying to come out with a coherent structure for our project schedule, which is where Microsoft Project is very heavily used. In executing, we're looking at the Microsoft Project schedule and comparing the times and the durations to the actual work that is occurring on the field. And then in monitoring and controlling, we're making sure that everything that we said would happen according to our schedule is really happening. We're also tracking other metrics, such as earned value, for example, budget metrics, scope, making sure that everything is in line with what we originally planned. And in closing, we're closing out the project, making sure that the stakeholders and the customers and everyone else is happy about the end deliverable. Now let's talk about building a schedule in Microsoft Project. To start off a Microsoft Project schedule, the following should preferably have been defined and documented. You want to know the project title, the project objectives, the product of the project and the major deliverables, the scope of work to be accomplished, any project contracts, scope of work or scope statement, a work breakdown structure, a task list, a resource list, project resource rates, the project budget, the duration, the start date, and the end date. Once you have all this detail, you can go ahead and begin building your Microsoft project schedule. So let's jump straight in to building our Microsoft project schedule. The first thing to do when you get into Microsoft Project is look around and try and familiarize yourself with the icons that exist in other Microsoft applications. Of course, the menu bar is at the top, just like any other application. You can click on it, you can move it around, as you can see. You can dock it to the side if you want. You can take it back up to the top. It's basically the same functionality. Then you've got the toolbar. And you can move your toolbars around just like you would in any other Microsoft Office application. You can click and drag. You can put it back up. You can bring it down. You can do all sorts with it. If you click on the new icon, that opens up a new Microsoft project schedule. Just like Microsoft Excel, you can type in anything. The moment you type in an entry, you will have a duration as well as a start and finish date immediately populated. Another function in Microsoft Project is if you type in a task, you are able to make that task a subtask of its parent by using the indent buttons, which are these green buttons at the top. So just highlighting the task and clicking on either of the buttons will either unindent or indent that task. You can keep typing in tasks and they will keep being indented. You can also copy a whole array of tasks, like if I roll this back up, if I go to my edit and copy task and I click on another line, I could go to edit and paste, and that will paste a replica of the task that I had above. So the basic functionality that you're used to in other Microsoft Office applications is pretty much the same in Microsoft Project. One of the big rules in using Microsoft Project is do not force in a start date for your task. For example, if your task was meant to be starting or your project was meant to be starting on May 1st, for example, of 2008, rather than go in here and forcefully input 5108, the best way or the best practice to get your project start date in is to go to the project menu and click on project information. After you do that, you need to click on the drop down arrow next to the start date and you need to select 1st of May there. The moment you click OK, you notice that your whole project schedule has been updated to the 1st of May. That is one of the big best practices in using Microsoft Project. Never forcefully type in the start date. So now you know the basics and how to navigate. I will go ahead and show you how to import a Microsoft Excel task list into Microsoft Project. You probably remember our Microsoft Excel task list. It's got all the tasks that need to be completed. It's got the durations, the start, and the finish dates. Now, it's very easy to type this in Microsoft Excel. Now, the next thing we're going to do is import all this into Microsoft Project. Then we are going to indent all the tasks exactly as you see them here. We're going to make sure that they all roll up into their parent tasks. And we're going to make sure that we've got the right start and finish dates in the schedule. So for now, I'm going to click on File and Save As. I'm going to save my construction Excel workbook as construction, and I'm going to call it construction 2. And I'm going to save that onto my desktop. The next thing I'm going to do is go to Microsoft Project. I'm going to open up a brand new project. I'm going to click on the New button, and that opens up a brand new project. Now what I'm going to do is click on File. I'm going to click on Open. I'm going to make sure that I've got all files selected so I can see all files. And then I'm going to click on Construction 2, which is a project that I want to import into Microsoft Project. Before I go any further, I must alert you to some functionality that is already in Microsoft Project 2007. That functionality prevents you from importing legacy files from previous Microsoft Office applications. So if you're trying to import a Microsoft Excel 95 workbook, for example, or even a 2003 workbook, or even a 2002 workbook into Microsoft Project, Microsoft Project 2007 will prevent you from importing it unless you take certain actions. For this exercise, you must make sure that when you go to Tools and click on Options, you must make sure that you have this radio button for Allow Load-in Files with Legacy or Non-Default File Format selected. If you have this default, which is Do Not Open or Save File with Legacy or Non-Default File Formats in Project, if you have that selected, well, when you go to File and Open and you try to import an Excel file, it will not let you import that Excel file. And I'll just demonstrate what I mean. If I click on Construction and keep going through the mapper, when I finally try to finish my map, I click on Finish, it brings up this warning: you are trying to open a file saved in an older file format. Your settings do not allow you to open files saved in older file formats. To change your setting, navigate to the Security tab in the Options dialog box. So what we need to do is go to Tools, Options. In the Security tab, we want to make sure that the Allow Load-in Files with Legacy or Non-Default File Format is selected. I'll do that and click on OK and start again. To import our file to Microsoft Project, click on File, click on Open, click on All Files, look for our Construction 2 project, double click on it. The next thing to do is keep clicking through the Microsoft Project Import Wizard. So you click on Next, click Next again. How do you want to import this file? As a new project, click Next. Now there are two things you need to do here. For our Microsoft Excel file, you want to make sure that the import includes headers checkbox is selected. If your Microsoft Excel workbook does it indeed include headers, then at the top, you want to make sure that tasks is selected because this is asking you what type of data you want to import. Select the types of project information you want to map: task information, resource information, or information on resource assignments. And we know that we are actually importing task information because we are importing the task names as well as the task start and finish dates. The next thing to do, click Next, and then select the drop-down arrow in the source worksheet name field and select Sheet 1 because remember, in Microsoft Excel, it was on Sheet 1 that we had all our tasks. Just to remind you, this is Sheet 1. If our information was in Sheet 2, we would have chosen Sheet 2. So going back to our Microsoft project schedule, what we need to do is select the Microsoft project fields that we would like to map this data to. As you can see, we've got task name as being the title of the task field in Microsoft Project. What you need to do here is type in name because that's going to map to our task names. And we've got activities in our Excel document map to name, duration map to duration, start map to start, and finish map to finish. Click Next. You can save the map as map 1, for example. Click Save, click Finish. The moment you click Finish, it alerts you that you moved task 139 of construction to start Monday, March 31st, 2008. This is before the project start date. So it asks you, do you want to continue or do you want to cancel and not move the task? Well, we are building the schedule. So for now, I'm going to select OK, let it do whatever it needs to do. The most important thing in this stage is to get all your task information into Microsoft Project. Now that I've got my information in Microsoft Project, the next thing I need to do is make sure that my tasks are all lined up the way they were in Excel, or I just need to make sure that my tasks are indented under the right parent task. Before I imported my tasks in, I named my parent tasks by a dash and a number. So I've got -1, -2, -3, and -4, and so on for my parent tasks. Now what I need to do to get my subtasks indented is highlight the subtasks, and you can either highlight them all the way at the side where you've got the numbers, or you can just click on them and highlight them, and then use the indent button to shift them over to the right. So I'm just going to do that for a few of these tasks. And let's say I indent all these tasks and I've got a parent task by accident selected. If I want to get rid of that, all I need to do is highlight those tasks and click on the left indent button and select those that I want to indent once again. So that's really how to get your tasks into Microsoft Project, which is really the most important thing. For those of you who are more familiar with Microsoft Excel, you can actually plan out your whole project in Microsoft Excel. You can type in all the tasks in Microsoft Excel before you import them into Microsoft Project. So let's keep indenting. And we've just got a few left. And that completes the indentation of our Microsoft project schedule. So far, we've imported all activities, we've indented all activities. I can see my long lead procurement task missing a Gantt bar. To display the Gantt bar for any task, just click on that task and go to the icon of the finger touching the Microsoft Project Gantt bar, which is this icon up here. If you click that, it will show you where your Gantt bar is. You can also zoom in and out, so I can look at my whole project. Using the functionality of the magnifying glasses, I can go in or I can go out. Another way to do this very quickly is to go to View, go to Zoom, and I can click on Entire Project, and it will show me my entire project. Even as I scroll down all the way to the end, I can see where my project ends. So far, I've imported my schedule from Microsoft Excel into Microsoft Project. The next thing I want to do is indent all my tasks to make sure they roll up to these top tasks. The quickest way to do that will be to click on the Show button and click on Outline Level 1, and that shows me all my Level 1 activities. I can highlight all my Level 1 activities and I can indent them, and the 3-story office building task becomes my topmost task. If I wish to make my 3-story office building task a subtask of commercial construction, I can also do that by highlighting it and clicking on the indent button. Now, there's some other functionality in Microsoft Project that I will be showing you. Before I do that, I'm going to unindent my 3-story office building task. And to do that, I'll just click on the left button. Now, what I'm going to do is delete the top task. And now I'm going to go to Tools, Options. In the View tab, down below in the Outline options for Construction 2, if I click on Show Project Summary Task, it will show the summary task for the whole project. Click on OK, and I've got Construction 2 as the topmost summary task. And of course, you can always change that. So I'm going to change Construction to Commercial Construction. And that's my topmost project task, and I can see all my other tasks below. If I want to see everything in the schedule, I just click on Show and select all subtasks. Now, for those of you who know a few things about Microsoft Project, you can see that I've got some constraints in there. The best practice in Microsoft Project is not to have constraints where you don't need them. Constraints make your tasks start or finish on certain dates. They impose a start or a finish date on your project. That is definitely not what you want. So to get rid of these constraints, you can select all your project tasks that you imported. You can click on the Task Information button, and then in the Advanced tab, where you've got Constraint Type, you want all the constraints to be as soon as possible, except those dates are really imposed in real life. If your project task can start without these constraints or finish without constraints, you want to make sure that as soon as possible is your preferred constraint type. So let's click on OK. And what that has done is gotten rid of all my constraints. Now I'm just going to save my schedule one more time. File and save. And I'm going to save my schedule as construction project. And that saves it as a Microsoft Project MPP file. Now that my project has been saved, you notice that those blue highlights have gone away. Now, the next thing to do in any Microsoft project schedule is think about how tasks are linked. And we did cover this in previous tutorials in our series. But for now, I'm just going to show you how to link several tasks. If your tasks have a relationship such that the predecessor must be completed before the successor starts, then just highlight all those tasks and then you click on the Link Tasks button. And if you can see the relationship, that has linked all my tasks. If I want more detail regarding these tasks, I can right-click in this Gantt area and click on Split. And that shows me the split screen where I can view lots of information about the tasks simultaneously. So if I click on my Submit Bond task, which is on line 4, I can see that the predecessor of line 4 is Receive Notice to Proceed and Sign Contract. I can also see that my task relationship is a finish to start relationship. And that means task 3 must finish before task 4 commences. These are some of the additional detail that you must be aware of when using Microsoft Project 2007. You can review other videos in our series where task types were covered in detail. So for now, this is a high-level view of how to get into Microsoft Project 2007 and do the basics. There are also tutorials in which we have gone into detail regarding resource lists. To give you a high-level idea of how to view resources or how to create resources in Microsoft Project, click on View, click on Resource Sheet. This is your resource sheet view. You can type in names of resources. You can also track how much these resources cost. For example, the standard rate, say $50 or $100 for the engineer, or $20 for the foreman per hour. The other thing that you can do is assign these resources to the different tasks. I'll show you how that's done. Let's go to our Gantt chart view. So click on the View menu, click on Gantt chart, and let's just select one task, for example. Receive notice to proceed and sign contract. If I wanted to assign a resource to this task, I could do it in either of two ways. I could click on the Assign Resource button, and that opens up the Assign Resources box. I could choose Engineer and click on Assign. Immediately, that would assign the engineer to my Receive Notice to Proceed task. Let's say I wanted to assign the foreman to obtain building permits. All I need to do is click on that task, select the foreman, and then click on the Assign button. That shows me the cost of the foreman for those activities, and it's basically rolling up the cost of 4 days worth of work. There's a lot more detail that goes into using Microsoft Project and assigning resources, estimating durations for tasks. Lots of information has been covered in previous tutorials of Microsoft Project, but this will get you started on importing your tasks into Microsoft Project 2007, having a rough idea of the schedule, and applying the knowledge in our previous tutorials to your project schedule to get exactly what you need in Microsoft Project.